Yay!
Hey, everybody!
And we are live from California for Wednesdays with Whitney. I'm Whitney, and this is my dearest friend, Miss Natalie Sinisgalli.
Hi, everybody!
Yay!
Am I your most frequently recurring guest?
It could be possible. You and Emily might be tying for that place. In Wednesdays with Whitney territory.
I might have to move to Des Moines.
You might have to. We'll
upset the balance.
We'll have to figure out a way to just Skype you into Facebook Live.
I love
Can we
it.
do that somehow?
Let's figure it
Let's
out.
figure it out. So we are currently in Monterey.
We are in Monterey.
We got here last night. So Natalie and I flew in. She actually surprised me in the Chicago airport. I look up at 7 a.m. after a 5 a.m. flight, and I see her standing there, and I'm like, I know?
She goes, did I know this?
And I didn't know that. So
we were planning to meet in LA. Though.
I was planning to see her. That was going to happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, airplane.
Speaking of airplanes.
Speaking of airplanes. So we're on this great adventure. We are actually headed up the coast to San Francisco, where we are going to be shooting one of Natalie's high school friends' weddings.
Yes.
So that's the whole reason that we're in California. If you've been following along on my Instagram story, you'll see that we have been super gratuitous with the selfies, and we may or may not have rented a red Mustang, and it was the best decision we've ever made.
Literally ever. I highly recommend renting a convertible if that ever seems even mildly appropriate in your life.
And I was like, do we need this? We could just get a little Ford Fiesta and make it happen, you know?
Especially the red.
Yeah.
We got the red.
So we got to pick our car when we got in, and they were like, you can have a white one, you can have a silver one, and we were like, no.
If we're doing this, let's go all the way.
And so I'm not actually wearing bright red lipstick at the moment. Natalie represented for us, but we definitely have been wearing a lot of lipstick on this trip, just so we look good in the car.
We're pretty much fueled by kombucha and lipstick.
We got what are we, 3 or 4 days in on this? 3 days?
3.
I can't remember.
I don't know.
And we got to the end of day 2, and we're like, we haven't had any alcohol. We've just been drinking kombucha.
Yeah.
So this is our kind of vacation: convertibles and kombucha.
Healthy.
I think that's our new vacation tagline. Hashtag that.
I love it.
Why we're actually here today is to talk to you about travel weddings.
What?
Yeah. We can just tell you about our vacation, but we are also. Did you notice that we're wearing jackets in California?
Yeah, it's kind of cold here.
Nobody told us that it was going to be cold.
60 and change, 62.
I'm going to have to go buy a sweater. I've also been stealing because she packed way better than I did, because I haven't even unpacked my house yet. So
there's that.
Was a difficult.
I'm also always cold.
Transition. Yeah, you were.
And I have
better.
to cover my skin in the sun.
Yes. our selfies it's mostly me being sun and her being sun.
Because it's so hard to stay this pale.
Yes.
It's
okay, but really travel weddings.
But travel weddings. So let's bring it back in. I think that it's something that is so interesting to a lot of people, because it looks so fun and glamorous, and it totally is, don't get me wrong. But we wanted to talk a little bit about what goes into it as a photographer, what are things that we have to prepare, what are considerations that we have to have in mind as we're preparing to deliver the same level of wedding photography that we do in our hometowns, and what that looks like.
Well, and one of the things that I was actually recently having this conversation with a friend, and she was like, the resort provides a photographer. So when I book the resort, they suggest somebody, and it's an additional fee to bring somebody on. And, she's thinking about this question, and you and I combined, we didn't actually count up the number, but together we have shot
5?
in Sonoma, the Hamptons, help me.
St. Thomas,
LA, and then here in San Francisco.
So 5. Yeah.
And then separately, we've shot a whole bunch more. I like having her along. It's like getting 2 of the best for,
for one.
We show up together. But when she was asking me these questions, I was like, well, I mean, you can look at the photographer's work on the resort, but what I would strongly believe is that photographer is rarely going to be consistently the same person. They have several people that they offer as a photographer. So I guess I would be really scared to show up on a location and never have met my photographer, be trusting them with the biggest day of my life.
Yeah.
And also, like, stylistically, how do you know you're going to match with that person?
Right. And those are all the day of concerns in terms of your wedding photography, but also based on the experience itself. I mean, when we work with our wedding couples, so much goes into that relationship before the wedding and after the wedding. So both of us are album-based photographers when it comes to weddings and everything. And so much of that relationship is built before the wedding. Yeah. And like in the case of Bobby and Nicole, when they Hi, Bobby and Nicole. We'll send you a link if you're not already watching. But they actually booked us for their engagement session. Yeah. And they hired us specifically for their engagement session. They said, hey, we're getting married in Sonoma.
Yep, they weren't planning at that time.
Yeah, we're not going to need a photographer, but we want you to do your engagement shoot. After that shoot, they said, oh my gosh, like we've bonded with you guys so much. We love your work. We want to fly you out to Sonoma. And it sounds crazy, but it makes so much more sense because you have the relationship in advance, and then afterwards we spend so much time with our couples on their wedding album, being able to pick those photos out in person together, being able to feel the leather and like say, okay, this is the cover that I want and this is the design that I like, and being able to deliver all those things in person. It honestly is less work than it's less work to fly someone out there than it is to do everything remotely.
Well, and I think just that whole relationship of building trust. So a lot of our clients, when they're picking a destination wedding, they're going to this destination because it's beautiful and they want those really epic, amazing images. And like, I see very few travel weddings where photography is not the priority. And to take such a chance on that, and just to not know exactly what you're getting. Yeah. I mean, our communities know exactly what they're getting because they have seen it time and time again. We've worked with your friends. And if you're just showing up on site and hoping, like, yes, if photography is just like a thing that you want to happen, like you can take a chance, but that's not. Yeah. I don't take chances on things like that.
No, we don't recommend that.
So there's all the background that goes into that, though.
Yeah, and that's like on the client end in terms of like what they're receiving. Yeah. For us as photographers, there's so much that goes into this. So many things. And I think it's very interesting to be on this end of it because first of all, I think equipment is a huge consideration for a wedding photographer. The amount of luggage that we brought is fairly absurd compared to what we would normally bring.
Camera to clothing ratio is way off, which is totally why I'm currently cold.
Yeah, we're washing clothes here. But there's just so many backup systems, and so we each need a camera, but we also bring our own backup. Yeah. Things that are very easy to do in our hometowns, but that you have to literally carry on your back as you're traveling. We have to do some research. So normally, Whitney and I are not huge proponents of scouting venues in advance and saying like, okay, this is exactly where we're going to shoot, because when we show up to a location, it's as obvious to us as like, okay, where are we getting our next breath? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. But when we're traveling, we definitely do need to have a little bit more of, time invested in lay of the land.
Well, there's just logistics, like getting to and from the venue. When I'm shooting a wedding in Des Moines, I don't have to think about how long it's going to take me to get there.
You just know.
But in San Francisco, it's going to take me 20 minutes tops to get anywhere in Des Moines. But in San Francisco, I'm like, we need to go to the venue the day before or even 2 days before just to know where it is, know what the traffic's going to be like, know what direction it's facing, like all of these things. Sun in Des Moines, I know where the sun's going to be pretty much anywhere just because it's the environment I live in. In San Francisco, assuming that there's sun, we might not have that.
It's cloudy, which would be great. It's great. It'd be easy.
I'll take that. Take that any day. But those are just the unknowns that we think about ahead of time to make sure that we're delivering the very best quality to our clients.
Right. And then I think too, the quality of light is so different, and that's something that, the more that we come to California, the more we appreciate it. It's stunning.
I just want to be here all the time.
Open with that. But it's really fun as a photographer to get out of your environment and, see some new sights, see some different light, and just have this fun experience. We also usually build a little vacation out of it, which is awesome.
What's happening right
now. And then we want to talk a little bit too about the difference between maybe like a travel wedding and a destination wedding.
Yeah.
So this current wedding that we're doing in San Francisco is not a destination wedding because the couple actually lives there. It's just a travel wedding for us because I know them and we're going out there to shoot the wedding. Yes. But some of our couples have done destination weddings where they're traveling to a site that they do not live in. And so there's definitely some amazing advantages and some challenges that go along with that.
Totally. I think some of the things that that as our destination couples have gotten into, they're like, well, how do we get our wedding dress there?
Yeah.
And how far in advance do we plan something like that? So generally, I can say with confidence that our destination weddings are usually looking to have a much smaller, intimate wedding.
Definitely.
These are usually 50 people or less.
Yep.
It's their closest friends and family. Mm-hmm. And how we've really seen it work best with our time just watching this is that these tend to be all in the same venue. Mm-hmm. So the clients and their families are staying at a resort or a big house the whole week. Mm-hmm. Everybody's there. Everybody's getting familiar. And then the day of the wedding, like hair and makeup comes to them and everything happens right there. So you're not doing a lot of transportation.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part about a destination wedding for your guests is also the hardest part about a wedding for your guests when you're living in Iowa. It's transportation. It's finding, if you're going to have a wedding in Des Moines, but some of your people don't live in Des Moines, they're still going to worry about parking. They're still going to worry about where they're going to stay. Mm-hmm. It's 10 times harder when you're doing that in a completely unfamiliar place.
Particularly if it's out of the country.
Oh my gosh.
So we did an amazing wedding in St. Thomas last April. Hey, Jared and Tabitha.
Yay.
And so, I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever been to an island, but there's that
you have to bring everything
the
in.
terrifying journey between the airport and then the venue.
Yes.
And then, once you're there though, so, they did an not an all-inclusive, but it was all in one location and everybody was staying there, which we highly recommend if you're out of the country or in a very challenging place to get around. But it's definitely nice when you get that extra time to bond. Yeah. We love when we're able to get to know the families in advance, and having everything on one site certainly makes it easier for your photography team because they know exactly what they have access to, and we're not worried about transportation day of and that sort of thing.
That was such an amazing. We were at Jared and Tabitha's wedding. We were actually there a couple days in advance. Mm-hmm. So not only did we have time to acclimate and not be jet lagged, which I mean, just waking up at 4 a.m. on one day that's going to throw you all off no matter what. I think we're finally recovering from our crazy early wake ups to get here. Mm-hmm. But we got to know the venue really well. So before the wedding day, we had everything picked out of where we were going to shoot, what that was going to look like. We knew how hot it was going to be. Yeah. And we fully prepared with sunscreen.
And also what time sunset is, because you get so used to, we're doing, 20 plus weddings this year, and, 10 in, it's like, oh, yeah, sunset happened. Like, what time sunset was last week. And you're like, I don't know, it's a few minutes later or earlier this time. But then, when you're in a different area, we, look up sunset and just see how it looks. They look different. Like sun, for photographers, I mean, it's a big deal. And they definitely shoot differently too. So we've been out playing a little bit, shooting as we've been here. It's amazing.
So those are a few. Are there any other things that we
the other thing too that makes it sound crazy, when we back up images, so after we shoot a wedding in our hometowns, we can
go back to our studios
and back up our images
immediately.
Instantly. And we also always shoot in tandem, so we're shooting 2 copies every time we take one photo. Yes. It's going to 2 different cards in case something happens with one of the cards. Right. And then we go home and then we copy them again, and that hard drive is copying them several times. Yes. And so, we're crazy, but it's so important that we don't lose our images.
It's important to be crazy in this industry.
Absolutely. Yeah. Neuroses paying off majorly. But when you're traveling, there's sort of a different system for that. Yeah. So we still shoot tandem. So we've got 2 sets of copies, and then we bring laptops and we copy them over to hard drives as well. But then while we're traveling the rest of our time here, we make sure that we have copies in different places. Yes. So I would never put all of them in my purse or all of them in my suitcase. So, Whitney might have a copy, I might have a copy, one might be in the baggage, one might be locked in the glove compartment of the car, one might be in my purse or my wallet. Like, these are things that we think of because
ahead of time.
God forbid anything happens, if we get robbed or if the car gets, our car's hot, it might get stolen.
Don't say things like that.
Probably not.
It's not going to. It's a beast. It's like the biggest sports car that's ever existed.
But it's fine. But if it happens, I mean, the way that we always talk about it and think about it is that gear is replaceable. I never worry about my camera getting stolen. I never worry
about my gear.
Because even if it happened before the wedding,
I have insurance.
We could get another camera from any place. Yes. And we
easily
know people.
Rentable.
Yeah, rentable. We know people, whatever. Yeah. But the only thing that we cannot lose are those tiny little cards that contain the photos, because that's why we were here and that's why we were hired.
Well, and that's the most important thing on any wedding day.
Absolutely.
People will sometimes say like, oh, like stay after, enjoy. And I'm like, if I'm carrying your cards on my body, I am not enjoying anything until those are backed up. Yeah. Like that's just, it's the most important thing to either of us. And that is what I will think about until I know that they are backed up and in my fire safe box. Like, this is really important to me.
It's true.
And it's something I think about until those files are completely delivered.
Absolutely.
So that anxiety doesn't actually stop for a while. And even beyond that, like, we both have systems to keep our files for a long time afterwards to ensure that our couples can always access those.
Yeah.
So
just another service we provide.
Just another service we provide in capturing your always and maintaining your legacy.
If you're interested in more of this, you should follow us on Instagram. Our Instagram stories
our Instagram
wild
stories
right now.
are wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm pretty into those.
All the lipstick.
I need to up my game on that right now. But thank you for joining us today on Wednesdays with Whitney and my special guest star, Miss Natalie.
Oh, we're having so much fun.
We are. This has been a true vacation. So that's been awesome. And we're going to go enjoy the overcast weather and find some breakfast because here it's 10 a.m. So
it's true. And thank you to everybody who made this possible. We have support teams running things back home, and lots of people that have made this trip possible.
As many of you know, I literally moved into my house a week ago yesterday. So the fact that I'm here is a little crazy.
Intense.
Yeah, I couldn't find half of the things I needed to pack a bag. So to Lucy and Megan and David and everybody coming to my house to give me home repair estimates, because there's work to do once you move into a house, thank you for being there and just for keeping things going, because this would not be possible without your love and support.
Thanks to my team back home too, holding it down. And to Willie and Caroline, we're so excited to see your wedding.
I know,
on Saturday.
so pumped. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, we're going to have such an amazing day, and you'll see some behind the scenes Instagram stuff too.
Awesome.
Yay.
Bye guys.